Welcome to Black Army Radio, folks. I think we got a pretty good episode for you today. For those of you out there that listen to us in any kind of way, shape, or form, give us a like, give us a follow, write us at 5 stars, send an episode that you think is good to a friend. Yeah, help us out, help us expand this sucker, and maybe get some more good guests. And we got a couple guests lined up in the queue a little bit that we'll get to eventually over the next few weeks. A few more that we're talking to, and yeah, so that would be super rad. Joel, how we doing, buddy?
Not doing too bad. Glad to be here. Had a close call on the highway yesterday, but it all turned out all right. Not too much to discuss, but I'm here. No scratches. No one else got injured. No laws were broken. So just a big tow bill. But
As long as you're still
that's
around,
going.
Joel, you can break whatever laws you need
Yeah,
to keep hanging around. All right, like when it comes to like motor vehicle crap on freaking I-70,
great,
which is
great.
a shit show.
Well, the day before there was that 75 caller pileup that we were on the other
Dude,
side, but they stopped traffic both ways, and we ended up missing that by like 10 minutes. So
wasn't that on the
um
Eisenhower Tunnel?
like
Like right on the opposite
yeah,
side
it's
of the Eisenhower?
right on the opposite side going westbound, right on the right that first corner
Yeah.
coming out of
Colorado's
the
trying to
tunnel.
do a late we're still going to have winter push even though we didn't have winter. And so we're getting a big
I
storm
know.
coming in tonight too. And there was a massive 75 car pileup on I-70 outside of the Eisenhower Tunnel, which is like like an hour and a half west of Denver. Something like that.
Yeah.
That was pretty that was pretty crazy. So, all right, what are we going to talk about today? Ladies and gentlemen, badass mofos from the Black Army Radio realm. We're going to talk about Pete Hegseth quoting the Bible, which was actually Samuel Jackson in Pulp Fiction, even though I think that it wasn't as, you know what I mean, is what we think it is. We'll go into that a little bit more, but
It's
I think it's pretty
it's
goddamn
still
funny.
funny and just shows like no self-awareness of just anything, like to me
Yeah.
it's just funny. I don't know if it's as big as a deal as some of the other stuff that's been done, but it's
No,
fucking
I don't think
comical
it
if
is.
anything.
Yeah, but it is pretty funny. We'll get into that. Number two, War Resolutions Act was voted on on Wednesday, yesterday, the 15th. And guess what? Congress once again decided that they don't have any fucking power to stop Trump from doing anything. They basically voted themselves out of power again. We'll get into that sucker. Topic number three is going to be President Trump has reversed his previous position and is now actively endorsing an 18-month extension on Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Service Act, which is FISA, which stems from the Patriot Act, which, just like everything else he's doing, there is a shit ton of records of him saying that FISA needs to be killed or kill FISA. Just straight up kill FISA over and over again, posts from 2024. And there'll be tons of people defending that too, I'm sure, like everything else. For the international community, and how they feel about Israel continuing to get arms, weapon systems to continue their onslaught in Gaza and in Lebanon. And five, we have Professor Mohamed Morandi from the University of Tehran, who was part of the negotiation package that went to Pakistan on the Iranian behalf. Remember, we did the thing, I guess it was this last one we did, where we talked about Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff and their backgrounds as being the primary negotiators for ending World War III, and about how they're not at all qualified, even a little bit, to be in those positions. This guy is a PhD from the University of Tehran, and he is he doesn't actually work for the Iranian government. He did this for free as a volunteer to try to stop the war. And anyway, there was a pretty interesting interview with him. And so we'll talk about that a little bit. But let's start with old Pete Hegseth, literally quotes Samuel Jackson from Pulp Fiction speaking during a worship sermon at the Pentagon. During a worship sermon at the Pentagon. I've never heard of a worship sermon at the Pentagon. It's probably not the first worship sermon that's ever happened at the Pentagon. They probably have their own chapel in there. I assume, but kind of interesting. And so the quote is really from Pulp Fiction, from Samuel Jackson. Okay. But the actual quote from Pulp Fiction was expanded on too. And so personally, I don't think this is near as big of a deal as everybody's kind of making it out to be. I think it was actually kind of a comedy, possibly. But when you watch the video, everybody that was in the room was taking it really seriously. Like everybody had their head bowed. You know, nobody's laughing. Everybody had their head bowed, like in prayer, in actual prayer, like listening to him do this. Here's the actual quote from Ezekiel 25:17. Okay. The quote is this: "And I will execute great vengeance upon them with furious rebukes, and they shall know that I am the Lord, when I shall lay my vengeance upon them." End quote. Okay. Here's what Hegseth said, and I'll do the entire quote before I say anything else. Okay. They call it CSAR 25:17, which I think is meant to reflect Ezekiel 25:17, the secretary said. Here's the quote that he actually said: "The path of the downed aviator is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who, in the name of camaraderie and duty, shepherd the lost through the valley of darkness. For he is truly my brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to capture and destroy my brother. And you will know my call sign is Sandy 1 when I lay my vengeance upon thee." And amen. Sandy 1 was the op for the Combat Search and Rescue, which is the CSAR for the downed F-15 pilots. Apparently, it was called Sandy 1. But Ezekiel 25:17, and he said this is CSAR 25:17, which is kind of telling me it's a parody. You know what I mean? Like he quoted it as Combat Search and Rescue 25 verse or chapter 25 verse 17. So, you know what I'm saying, Joel? Does that make sense? It is a little bit, but I do think it was kind of more meant to be more of a parody.
I think before you get to the actual Samuel L. Jackson one, I also think there's some like I think he enjoys playing with scripture, and just like how he told the story about the pilot being rescued on Easter, like he enjoys being able to like tie things together because it makes like the prophecy and everything seem more, especially when he's speaking in front of a mic, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah. And so, just for the hell of it, we figured we were gonna do. So there was a combination out there, right? And it's on X and all kinds of other social media platforms, which has Pete Hegseth and Samuel Jackson side by side, like given this speech, this extension of Ezekiel 25:17. And so here's Samuel Jackson saying almost the same thing that Pete Hegseth said.
You read the Bible, Greg? Oh, there's this passage I got memorized. Sort of fits this occasion. Ezekiel 25:17. The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who in the name of charity and goodwill shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness. For he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
I thought about playing it from a little bit earlier than that when he was talking about God. What was who was his boss in that? Marcellus Wallace. Is that the name of the boss?
Yeah,
I think.
I think so.
When he talks, he's like, Marcellus Wallace doesn't like to get fucked by anybody who isn't Mrs. Wallace. Before he goes into that speech, dude. What a great show, bro. What a great show. Anyway, we got to cover it. I thought it was funny.
Movie.
I don't really, I mean, you know, whatever with this. There's some people taking it really, really seriously. I'm not taking it seriously. I think when he called it CSAR 25:17 up there, it was pretty apparent, right? That he wasn't actually going to be quoting scripture. It was more like a prayer. But there had to have been some people out there in the audience, right? That were like, where do I know this from? feel like I've heard this before.
Well, and it's kind of funny too because like at least he knows scripture. They were talking to there's this interview with Donald Trump, and I think it was right before his I think it was going into this term, and he was at some very like Christian based like church thing, and these two guys are asking him a question. This was like a sit down interview, and they asked him what his favorite verse from the Bible was, and he goes, well, I think that's a really personal question, and I don't really want to go into it. I mean, I think it's really important, and I have some, I have great ones. They're the best, and it was just like, and I'm not going to be, I mean, I think there's some great verses to the Bible, even if you're not religious, but I just thought it was funny is I don't think that dude's literally said like he doesn't think he's going to heaven, and like I don't think he has I don't think he's a Christian, man. I don't think he gives a fuck. I just think he needs a vote.
Yeah, you think so? I think he's out of giving a fuck about everybody else. That seems pretty apparent. You know what I'm saying? And so, whatever. I'm not worried about Donald Trump's soul. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't give a shit. Like, sure. That's not my fucking concern of where his soul's going when all this shit's over, or however that works. Like, at all. So he can think whatever the hell he wants as long as he's not killing my kids in Iran. And so, right. War Resolutions Act. So on Wednesday, April 15th, 2026, the U.S. Senate rejected 2 joint resolutions of disapproval. These are resolutions of disapproval, okay, for what's already going to happen. This was led by Senator Bernie Sanders, who's now an independent out of Vermont. He's not a Democrat, he's an independent, that sought to block nearly almost $500 million in military sales to Israel. Although the measures failed to pass, they did draw record-breaking support from the Democratic senators, okay, signaling a major shift in the party's stance towards arming Israel in the ongoing conflict. And so there is that, because as we know, when on the macro level, the micro level, Israel, like in the last 12 months, 24 months, has gone from being above water in the United States. Well, literally since October 7th, we should say, right? They were above water with pretty much every demographic, like every age demographic from the boomers on down. Positive. Shit is no longer the case, homie. Like 24 months, 12 months, they're wildly underwater. I think the only generation that is still for Israel is the boomer generation, for our relationship with Israel.
And I think some of the Democrats realize like there's a big group of people who weren't MAGA or conservatives, the ones who like love Tulsi Gabbard. There's a big group of people that were strongly against war stuff, and Israel and stuff like that. And I think the Democrats are starting to see like in the last 8 or 9 years, a Democrat has lost any independent thinker who is a voter, because of some of the things that they claim aren't much, especially if you're a neocon Democrat, you might as well be a Republican. You talk a little bit differently about social issues, but that's all on the macro level and doesn't change any economics or anything else like that, and at least how they implement it too, especially like how they decide to do it. But I think it's also kind of funny is like most of the time when there is a war, like every Republican voted for this, even the Republicans like Ron Paul and Massey, they all voted for this.
Massey didn't vote. So this was Massey's not.
Massey didn't vote.
No, because Massey's not part of. So Massey, I was actually gonna. I figured that would happen. So he's part of the House of Representatives.
That's
he's
right.
not part
of
the.
He's a House representative. He's
not. Yeah. So if this would have passed the House, or I'm sorry, if it would have passed the Senate, it would have gone to the House, and that's where he would have voted. But he didn't. It was Rand Paul did vote. Dude, Rand Paul, his dad has got to be so disappointed in this. I mean, I can't believe he voted against both measures. There's 2 measures that we're going to get into here. And so, before, like, yeah, okay, a major shift. Obviously, there's been more Democrats that defected against Israel, I think, than pretty much any time recorded, in the Senate. And so that was good. And before we even really get into the resolutions, it's Resolution 32 and Resolution 33. So Resolution 32 is about armored bulldozers, and Resolution 33 is about 1,000-pound bombs. Okay. Before we even get into that, and we'll get into it deeply here in a minute, like making war. So Sean U. Daly talked about this, is our guest, and about like how this works and how it's supposed to work, pretty in depth. And I mean, quote basically from the Constitution is, quote, "The Congress shall have the power to declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning captures on land and water," end quote. Okay. The commander-in-chief. What's the role of the commander-in-chief in war via the Constitution? Verbatim. While Congress declares war, Article 2, Section 2 designates the president as commander-in-chief. Quote. Meaning, once war is authorized, that's important. That's really important. Once war is authorized, those 4 words are supposed to have some meaning. The president then directs the military operations after the war has been authorized by Congress. Okay. That would be Trump's actual role. And I know listen, this is what's going to happen, right? These are these people out there that are like, well, fucking Biden did it. Obama did it. Clinton did it. And it's like, yeah, what's your fucking point? What's your fucking point? We didn't like it when they did it either. And it's like, what? So we're one-way lizards now? Is that what we are? We're one-way fucking lizards? Because that side does it, we're going to do it while we tell them that their side's fucked up for doing it. We're not going to call out our own side for doing the same thing that we've been calling out repeatedly on the other side. That's called one-way lizard shit. That's what that's called. Okay. Or being a fucking hypocrite. Yeah, go ahead, man.
And when you have a 2-party system, like that's how it's been in the last, not necessarily on funding Israel, but on a lot of the wars, the Senate just votes for their party and the other Senate will vote against it. And it's typically like really close to a 50-50 split, or right on, there's 1 or 2 votes that swing it. And I think that's one of the problems in our thing is like, like if you don't vote for your party, then you're turning against your party. And then, then AIPAC's going to put a bunch of money to fucking smear you. And then then that's another like real thing is like, as soon as you vote not to go with one of these bills or against the war, AIPAC literally spends money to put another candidate in and runs like a smear campaign to get you, and that it should be illegal for foreign countries to meddle in our politics. And we did have laws established that have been walked on, changed to make that able to happen. Some of the Citizens United, Super PAC stuff, there's also a big scandal. The Hungarian just got a new president, or Hungary just got a new president, and their former president was, yep, their former president was giving CPAC over $20 million, which this is once again like this big money in politics, and that's a foreign government giving us money to swing to their position. And this was Trump's guy, and now he's out, and it was a big defeat too. Like it was an overwhelming defeat. So a lot of these
that with special elections here, right?
Yeah,
like everybody that Trump's going to back is just going to get crushed, bro. Like that, like Trump backing you is probably the worst possible thing that could happen right now if you're running for office at this point. But there's one more part of that constitutional provision for war, and that's the power of the purse. Okay. And the power of the purse is Congress further controls war making through its power to raise and support armies and provide and maintain a navy, quote. Okay. As well as its authority over all federal appropriations, which is funding. So when Trump goes back, when Trump and Hegseth are asking Congress for an additional $500 billion on top of the $1 trillion that we're spending on military-ness, compared to Iran's $10 billion, we'll say that. We had a whole episode about that, right? they're taking it to Congress because Congress controls the power of the purse. Even though we've pretty much since World War II eliminated Congress from making war, they still at least provide the power of the purse. And so we still at least got that going for us, even though based on the fact that they voted themselves out of this decision, I really don't think that they're going to deny Trump the extra money if they're not going to deny his ability to execute the war, like why wouldn't they give him the money to execute the war that they're saying that they don't want to have a fucking say in whether or not we're doing? And so with that all being said about like what our system actually says about how the fuck we're supposed to run. So the Senate voted on 2 separate measures aimed at specific military exports to Israel, all right, which we've sent more money and weapon systems and exports in general to the state of Israel than we have any other country in the history of the fucking world, all right, since we've been around. So Resolution 32 was armored bulldozers. Now, these, why would they need armored bulldozers? Well, they use armored bulldozers. They basically give them to the settlers, like around the West Bank, for anybody that keeps up with this shit. Now, I'd highly advise you out there to keep up with it because it's important if you actually want to know what's really going on a non-biased level. So these settlers go out there around the West Bank and in those areas, and they pretty much, a lot of these Palestinian families that are farmers out there. They have sheep, they have cattle, they have goats, they have donkeys, they have all kinds of stuff in their crops. And they let these settlers they're going around killing a lot of these, Palestinian farmers. They're just like their whole families. They're fucking them up real bad. They're beating them with baseball bats. They're killing their animals. I saw this one poor. First, I don't know why this stuck with me. It's a sheep, like a sheep, but it's like still a creature. And like this Israeli kid, that looked like he was about 15, took a baseball bat and hit this sheep like right in the back of his neck, kind of like where your head and your neck combine. That little spot there. Immediately paralyzed this fucking sheep. The sheep just went down, and you could tell right away, like it was trying to like move and do stuff, and then he left it. Paralyzed this fucking sheep, and then fucking leaves it. And anyway, these armored bulldozers, they give them to these assholes, and they just basically bulldoze all these Palestinian farms. And a lot of these farmers have had these lands for thousands of years. It was 60 AD when the Romans, not the Palestinians, it wasn't the Palestinians that kicked the Jews out of Israel. It was the Romans. Okay. Palestinians actually have never had anything to do with the Jewish people losing the Israeli state ever. Not once. Out of all the different military forces that the Israelis lost to losing Jerusalem, they never lost it to the Palestinians because it was never the Palestinians that did it. But these armored bulldozers, go ahead, man.
With these bulldozers too, they also like funnel routes of these people. So these people are like, where they're outside of Gaza and like the West Bank, like they have migration routes to the smaller towns and schools and stuff, and they funnel these people into like zones where if they want to, they could just pick them off, and they have. And other times they're shooting tear gas at them and
choke
stuff,
points.
but they
put them in choke points.
Make choke points for groups of people. And and then they just kind of move them as like they figure out what to do with the settlers, and it's when you actually see some of the videos and stuff, like I saw this little girl get tagged in the head with I think a tear gas, and they were launching it out of like they were up. It was them filming it was a fucked up part. Like the soldiers were filming it and laughing at it, and this little like 8-year-old girl got hit right in the head with a tear gas container, and then there's all these kids running, and there's one like teacher, or you could tell who was like the adult who was ushering these kids, and it's just, I don't know, man.
Dude,
I think
terrible,
it's shitty that
they're so terrible videos, dude. Like I saw this video of this she was a grandma, bro. It was like a grandma. Like, you got grandmas out there, people, like 80-year-old grandma, and there's these like punk ass teenage Jewish kids, and they beat this poor woman to fucking death, like, and filmed it. You know what I mean? Like right on her own land, right outside of her own house. And then they stole her property. They beat her ass to death with like with clubs. This old woman. and then they bulldoze her fucking house that has probably been in her family for 1,000 years or longer. And now they just have it. Now it's just fucking theirs. You know what I mean? And meanwhile, Israel is enacting legislation to hang Palestinians, right? For capital offense, as a capital offense for anything that they deem to be against, pretty much against the establishment of the Israeli state, in a court that has a 99% conviction rate against Palestinians. While they're not going to execute any of their own people for doing this stuff at all.
Right.
Man, it's terrible, dude. I'm so off the Israeli train. So that's okay. So the armored bulldozers that targeted the $295 million sale of Caterpillar D9 bulldozers. It was rejected 59-40. Okay. And rejected is in upheld because remember, this is from Bernie Sanders. This is, it's a resolution of disapproval, not approval. Okay. So the disapproval was rejected. Democratic report, a record 40 out of 47 Democrats voted to block the sale. And that's a record. Having 40 Democrats voting against anything going to Israel is actually a record in the United States. Every single goddamn Republican voted against the resolution. There was only one Republican that did a no vote, and that is chicken shit, as far as I'm concerned. If I like, that's a chicken shit thing to do. Just vote no. Don't be chicken shit. Vote fucking no. Don't do this little thing where you're just like, I'm not voting. I'm not going to represent my district or my state. It's like you're there as I hate the no voting thing. It drives me crazy. I don't even feel like that should be a fucking option. I don't give a shit if they're talking about number 2 pencils going to schools for kids doing standardized testing. Like, you're there because you're a goddamn representative of your fucking state and your constituents. Like, to just show up and do like, I'm not a no vote and I'm not a yes vote. I'm going to just mark myself absent or abstained or whatever the fuck it is. It's chicken shit to me. Yeah, go ahead, man. You had something to say about that?
And how about we just make fucking Israel buy their own fucking bulldozers? Like, I
Right.
mean, it's just like,
Imagine
what the
that.
fuck? I like, maybe your fucking citizens don't get health care for a few years and you have to buy your own fucking bulldozers. Like, what the fuck, man?
Yep. So every single Republican, including Rand Paul, every single Republican voted against this. Okay. Resolution 33. Resolution 33 was 1,000-pound bombs. All right. So this is a sale of 12,000 general purpose gravity bombs. Gravity bombs, we had talked about this, is different from smart bombs. All right. Smart bombs, you plug in a GPS coordinate, hit send, basically it goes. All right. Gravity bombs are just that. They're kind of like World War II munition systems. You fly over your target, you drop the bomb, boom, gravity bombs. Okay. 12,000, bro. 12,000 of these bad boys. All right. Rejected. This was even more. This was 63-36 as opposed to 59-40, which was the other resolution. 36 Democrats voted in favor of the block. And again, every single Republican voted against the resolution. There was one senator, again, Thom Tillis, Republican out of North Carolina, was the only Republican recorded as not voting on the measure, who joined Senator Cynthia Loomis, Republican, Wyoming, was the only Republican who voted against the bulldozer measure by not voting. Again, chicken shit, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, man, Rand Paul voted for both of them, dude. And I actually put this in here because I knew there'd probably be some confusion about that. So Thomas Massey is a Republican out of Kentucky. He was not part of the April 15 votes regarding arms or the bulldozer cells because those were Senate resolutions, and he's a member of the House of Representatives. And so he doesn't vote on Senate resolutions. And so, but there was unprecedented Democratic support, bro. You know, I mean, I can't, as a former Republican, this is why I'm a former fucking Republican, right? And there's a hell of a lot of former Republicans is because of shit like this. So unprecedented Democratic support, approximately 85% of Senate Democrats backed at least one of the two blocked measures. Okay, it's not bad. At least one. This is a sharp increase from previous years where similar efforts for both of these things only received about 19 negative votes. So going from 19 at your high point to like at least up to like 40, it's a pretty big change. And then you have what's called the shameful seven Democrats, the shameful seven. And these guys are the guys that are sucking off Israel as much as Trump's sucking off Israel. Okay. And you got Chuck Schumer, Democrat, New York, Richard Blumenthal, Democrat, Connecticut, Chris Coons, Democrat, Delaware, Catherine Cortez Masto, Democrat, Nevada, John Fetterman. I don't even know why this fucker is a Democrat, Pennsylvania. It's really surprising to me that he hasn't switched parties yet. Christian Gillibrand, Democrat, New York, and Jackie Rosen, Democrat, Nevada. None of these seven humans have met anything Israel that they didn't absolutely jump for joy for. Yep.
Well,
Regarding
I'm pretty
Republic,
sure.
yeah, go ahead, man.
I'm pretty sure Blumenthal and Schumer are Jewish, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, Schumer is. Not sure about Blumenthal, but yeah, Schumer's never, liked an Israeli provision he didn't like. Never met an Israeli provision he didn't like.
Well,
And he's been in the Senate
if you
for
give a
173 years. So
if you give a fuck about this, go to the APAC tracker, and you could see any money that they give to any sort of politician, and it also shows like any other, because it's not just APAC. There's other Israel affiliated PACs out there that are giving money, but the majority is from APAC. But
oh yeah, APAC tracker is great, people. It's you can follow it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, like whatever, all these weird platforms. I mean, it really is great. And when you do the APAC tracker, what you really find out is that like there's only like 7 total people between the House of Representatives and the Senate and the Congress that don't take money from APAC. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're Republican or a Democrat. It's all the same fucking thing for them. I mean, it really is. Yeah, go check out APAC tracker. So Republican opposition. Republicans voted unanimously against the resolutions. I mean, they say almost unanimously, but it was fucking unanimous. Like there was 2 people and they just did a no vote. They didn't even do a no vote. They just said, we're not voting because we're fucking cowards, arguing that blocking the cells would, this is literally what they argued. Okay, quote, Joel, quote, blocking the cells would abandon America's closest ally and embolden Iran, end quote.
I mean, I
don't know, man. I feel like Great Britain's probably a hell of a lot most of our closest. Great Britain, Canada, France, they lost dudes in Iraq and Afghanistan. Israel didn't lose anybody in Iraq and Afghanistan. They didn't fucking fight with us. Hey, how many people did Israel lose fighting in any big, gigantic fucking wars? Did they lose anybody in Vietnam? They were around.
No.
Why the fuck why did they deploy any motherfuckers to Vietnam to fight with our fucking boys in Vietnam? Did they do that? What about Iraq 1? No. Well, Bay of Pigs? No,
I think
either. Iraq, Afghanistan? No, they don't want to fucking fight. Like I said, if it's not women and children, they're not into it, bro. You got a uniformed military force, they're not going to fight them.
Israel's like a fucking, like a younger brother or stepbrother who got bullied a lot and has some trauma from getting bullied in his past, and he keeps like being a fuck up, and we keep having to stand up for him because he has fucking anger issues and just like fucking hitting people in the face, especially women and children. And it's like I'm tired of standing up for him. I felt bad for a while because they went through some ferocious shit, but now it's like, all right, you need to move on from that, fucking do your own thing. I don't know, man. It's fucking stupid.
Yeah, they're at the point now, like, listen, they just needed to support themselves, bro. You want a war? Hey, man, like, you're a state. You're sovereign. You're a sovereign, bro. Do your thing. Fuck you need us for? You don't need our shit anymore.
Well,
you've been around for a while. Like, you're pretty much King Dick in the Middle East. And so it's like, hey, man, run your shit. Fucking make your own exports. Invent some shit. Make your own money. Make your own weapon systems. Like, fuck off all the way. We don't need to fucking support your shit anymore, especially when you're just committing massive amounts of genocide.
I've said this before, and America needs a mom to come out and yell and say, like, get fucking home. You didn't finish the last war you started.
Dude, you know what?
I
was talking to my wife the other night, and I was like, you know what? Maybe we need a goddamn female president. Maybe that's like, not a fan of Hillary Clinton, okay? Not a fan of Kamala Harris. But I'll tell you what, Melina Bricker could be president of the United States.
Right.
She would do a fucking good job, dude. She would do a fucking good job. And there's there's a lot of women out there that might like grab some people by the ear, you know what I mean? And be like,
right,
get your ass in here and have some dinner and quit acting like an idiot. Because, dude, we've had nothing but male presidents and we're in a fucking terrible situation right now. And I don't want it to be Hillary Clinton. I don't want it to be Kamala Harris. I don't want it to be AOC. And I don't want it to be a lot of different people. But, you know, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, come on down. Come the fuck on down, dude. Run for president. Please.
I think she's done
Come
with
on the
politics.
show.
I don't think the left would swing for her unless she changed some of her
Yeah, she'd have to change. She'd probably get a lot of independence, though. You know what I mean? And
I really think if a Democrat came out and said, like, I am fucking pro 2A, and I promise you I'm not going to, and maybe he has a pass on not voting, or she has a pass on not voting for some measures where she has, like, I think if the Democrats ran on policy and being pro 2A, they would win by like 70% voting. You know, like if they didn't talk about social shit, and if they were just like, yeah, like if they just ran on policy,
dicks. I mean, for real, like that's literally almost all they got to do, man. Get away from that fucking weird trans shit that they're so like engulfed in, and it's like, dude, and it's just like it's like the Republicans. Give me somebody that doesn't want to kill my kid in a war or cut my kid's dick off. I want an option that isn't going to do one of those two things.
I think in like the tough part with that conversation though is like this goes back to like letting, there hasn't been any sex changes for kids. No kids have gotten their dicks off. They have gave them hormone therapy. They have fucked with their becoming what they're doing, but like, and I think there's some maybe protocols that could be done on that as far as like what we're doing to kids, but that's like that's a problem with this whole conversation is like, it's like no one's forcing anyone to do anything. Like I'm not pro COVID vaccine, but the government didn't force us to take the COVID vaccine. Corporations said, this is going to be what's best for us. So we're going to say, we're not going to let you come work here if you don't take the COVID vaccine. There were state departments within the government that implied the same law, but the government never made a law that said you have to take the COVID vaccine. And not to say it couldn't have gone there, you know, and then we get caught in this
for their employees. They mandated for their employees. So there was like, I know that when I was in federal law enforcement, like I was just coming out, kind of like right when stuff was coming in, you know, I was leaving. It was a great time for me to leave. There was a lot of guys apparently that I used to work with, man, that they got mandated as federal agents and, you know, federal LEOs and uniform, non-uniform, both that, that like they pieced out.
Yeah, but that was at every level though, and that's the whole thing. Like, and not saying they didn't have a big. I'm not trying to justify it by any means, but we get so caught up in the things that aren't actually happening, but it becomes talking points. You know, like actually, and
you know what, Joel, you make a good point, man. You make a good point. I want to say that. I want to say that you make a good point because, like, we are absolutely at war right now. And it's probably going to escalate. It almost doesn't have a choice but to escalate. And that is a factual thing that we can, like, remember we talked about when Shawnee Daly talked about, like, the difference between being a political science and a political philosopher. Like, one's the scientific method where you have measurable outcomes, and one's philosophy where you don't. It's, you know, it's more intellectual and internal. The outcomes we're seeing for sure when it comes to the Republicans and war and Trump and war right now, and even Bush before that, right? Where we had thousands and thousands of dudes killed for a war that was sold on bullshit. Like, yeah, we didn't have thousands and thousands of kids have their dicks cut off. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so like that's a really good point that you make there, because it's not the same thing. I mean, I should say that with a caveat then, and be more like, you know, I want an option that's not going to be dictating. I want an option that's going to give us what the intent of the design of this republic was supposed to be, and that's individual decision making, thought, interpretation, outcomes, right? And it's like we're moving away from that. The Republicans are just as woke as the Democrats. They're just as woke.
I think that's the biggest problem. And too, like we talk about, and I get like you talk about something because it could progress to something that you're scared of, but either side sells that fucking fear, you know? And the reality is it's not as bad, especially when it comes to some of the social things that are ideology. And it's really easy to have the transgender conversation if you just say like they're cutting people's dicks off. It's a real nuanced conversation. I mean, I don't get it. I don't have to get it. I'm not cutting my fucking dick off, but I still think everyone's a human. I might look at someone a
Put in
little
a trophy
cross-eyed and
right
be
behind
like,
you, right by your bow.
right, you know, but at the same time, I think with like most of that social stuff, you know, we'll bring up one example and then that's like the talking point, and it doesn't get us anywhere because that conversation is so nuanced. Like I said, like go talk to a fucking transgender person, talk to someone, to kids going through it, and maybe you'll have a little perspective of like, oh shit, there's a little more to that than I thought, you know? And I'm not here to say it's people could believe what they want with all that stuff, you know? I'm live and let live, but like we label things way too quickly and then it's the same fucking talking point, you know? And that's the thing what annoys me. And the problem is too, is it's a conversation that's hard to fucking have. They're not easy conversations, you know, like there are things that are ingrained in us forever. So we're going to think a certain way. And until you really have to experience it from a different side, you know, and yeah, I don't know. I want fucking people to get along and just be like, yeah, maybe we could hold off how we talk about that shit in school and reintroduce it to people, you know, because I think everybody feels like something's getting shoved down their fucking throat. And as soon as someone feels like that, they feel like they don't have control. And I think there's an elegant way to do it. And I think shoving down, having a week for every sort of person who's gone through diversity in their life, whether it's racism, genderism, like whatever you want to call it, having a week for all those people. We should just teach that to respect other people, and people are going to be different and you need to respect it, versus like saying like, I'm so important and I'm experiencing this and my life is so hard. And then we have the week for the next person and then the next person. And then you have all the white people are all sad about like, well, what about me? You know, and like for me it's just like it's so divisive, you know, like the liberals do a shitty
It's super
job of
divisive, man.
introducing anything weird. Like the liberals shove something down your throat and then people get defensive, and as soon as that happens, like the Republicans got what they want, because they could be like, oh, we're going to rile our base up with this one. And same with the Democrats. No one cared about fucking women's sports until a couple dudes fucking changed their sex and went to play, you know. And the big thing too is, this is kind of funny how I like the transgender thing. No one's ever talking about women transitioning to men. It's always the I'm scared my son's going to wear a skirt, or you know, like this female shouldn't be having to compete against this person. And which I could see that argument makes some sense to me, you know, but also like let them figure it out. If they're starting to get their
my
ass
argument,
beat every
like
time,
as a father, for that, like when it comes to my daughters, is like the bathroom stuff, you know, which kind of incorporates school. So I got two girls, one that's, you know, they're like teens, they're right there. And I mean, there is 0% chance that I'm going to let a motherfucker walk into that bathroom. Zero.
right?
I don't give a fuck if he's trying to find himself or what the fuck he's trying to do. I don't fucking care. Go find yourself to fuck somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not finding yourself in front of my fucking girls. So that's like, for me, like, it's kind of like, that's right. it's not, I don't really worry about my boys. I got 3 boys. They're super boy-y, like they're real like boys. You know what I mean? They're constantly like grabbing their dicks and punching each other in the face and spitting and running around like crazy and making weapons out of rocks and sticks, you know? And it's like, I'm way more concerned with my girls, you know what I mean, than I am my boys. But the
Yeah,
thing
but
about,
the thing is I think that has less to do with that person being transgender and more to do with that person being a predator. You know, like there was an example of like, most transgender men are getting pegged and like they're not interested in like other women, if anything. And I could be wrong. I could be generalizing, you know, but like it's and whatever. This is a nuanced conversation, and I as a parent, I don't have a kid, so I'm not going to like. It's a really easy conversation to me because I'm not facing this on a daily, you know.
oh
And
yeah,
I do
I'm not
think
facing it on a daily either, even here, you know, especially being in the country. I keep an eye on it a little bit, you know, because we are we're in a blue state here. And so it does in a way worry me. But I'll tell you what, like there's a much higher percentage. Talk about having a part of your body removed. There's a way higher percentage you're gonna have a part of your body removed in war than as a fucking trans person. Do you know what I'm saying?
right.
And so when we're talking about these two things, because you made a really good point, like about 5 minutes ago, and it made me think for a little bit. And I like that. I like being challenged like that. And so that is a great point because it's like if you take the totality of circumstances and you're a reasonable human and that you know your outcomes are based on reasonableness, it's like, yeah, there's a way higher chance that I got 3 boys and this Iran war, if it turns into World War III, they're going to go. And there's a way higher likelihood that they're going to have an arm blown off, a leg blown off, get fucking lit on fire, get shot up, have something happen in that situation and lose a limb than getting their dick cut off by a fucking person at school. You know what I'm saying? Or through all that whole process. Like it really is. It's not even close. I mean, the likelihood of them losing a limb in war is much, 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 much. It's not even fucking like the likelihood of them getting cut on for trans stuff isn't even measurable compared to them losing a limb in a war situation based on how things are going. You know what I'm saying? Like you're
There's
100% right about that.
There's less than like point like 6% of our country that is trans, you know, like it's such a small percentage that like you're right with about that too. And that's one of my biggest things is like it's kids, there's nuance in the conversation, but who cares about anything else, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's 1% of our population. Get the fuck over
And
it.
you're right. It really is. It's a very vocal, and the thing about it is like the people are vocal. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
it's
no,
that
it's
stuff
for
drives me
sure.
fucking
That's
crazy because it's like we're gonna end up. It's like you're voting Republican or you're voting Democrat, and it's like which one are you getting? And it's like nobody seems to be really that fucking excited either way. You know. But real quick to wrap, put a bow on this shit for this war resolution thing. So even if the Democrats were able to block it, which they weren't able to do, for the resolutions to have been successfully blocked, the cells, they would have needed to pass both the Senate and the House, right? Thomas Massey's at the House. So if it did pass the Senate, it would have had to have passed the House, and then it would have had to have been signed by the president to be blocked. You know what I'm saying? And so that's really, really unlikely unless 2/3 majority override his veto, right? And so that's how our fucking republic works. Like it goes through the Senate and then it goes to the House and then it goes to the president. And if he vetoes it, you have to have 2/3 of majority to override his fucking veto. And so the chances of it, but the thing about it is like you're representing your people. And so it's good to see that there was at least a little bit of movement, you know what I'm saying, with that, because there just hasn't been in a long time. And now you're getting a lot of movement. And so the next topic, President Trump has reversed his previous opposition and is now actively endorsing an 18-month extension of Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Service Act, FISA. Okay. So let me give a really quick breakdown of what the Patriot Act is, really quick, for those of you out there. All right, I got a little paragraph written here. Passed shortly after the 9/11 attacks, dramatically expanded this is the Patriot Act, dramatically expanded the federal government's authority to monitor and detain citizens in the name of national security. It broke down the wall between local law enforcement and intelligence agencies, allowing them to share sensitive information more freely, while also broadening the definition of domestic terrorism. Legally, it lowered the threshold for the government to obtain private records such as phone logs, emails, and financial history, often through national security letters that did not require a judge's prior approval. Additionally, it authorized sneak and peek warrants, which led agents to search a home or business without immediately notifying the owner, and expanded the use of roving wiretaps to track individuals across multiple devices rather than specific phone lines. Okay, so why was the Fourth Amendment written? And this is really fucking important for you people out there. The Fourth Amendment was written literally because of what the British government used to use, which was called general warrants. General warrants. This is what the British Crown had been using. This is what our founding fathers experienced, even here in the colonies before the Revolution, was general warrants. Okay, what the Patriot Act basically does is it basically green lights general warrants. Okay, it grants the United States government, federal government, permission rather than using a Fourth Amendment style warrant, which is based on probable cause, oath and affirmation, and describing the place and things and persons to be seized specifically. Basically, what the Patriot Act does is it reverts back to kind of like the 18th century model of general warrants. All right. General warrant is a legal document that grants government officials broad, open-ended authority to conduct searches or arrests without specifying the exact person, place, or things to be seized. Okay. This is literally the reason why the founding fathers wrote out the Fourth Amendment all the way to the Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, Seventh, and Eighth Amendments. It's not just the Fourth Amendment. The way that they fucking did was to curtail the outcomes of general warrants. It was a huge deal for them. Unlike a modern warrant, it does not name a particular suspect or a specific address. It might it might simply authorize a search of any house suspected of containing any kind of smuggled goods or goods. Okay, it has unlimited discretion. It leaves it up to the officer in the field. It leaves it up to the officer to decide who is suspicious, which building to enter. The officer basically becomes his own signer of a warrant. The officer does individually. Okay, you cut the judge completely out. Long duration. Historically, some general warrants, known as writs of assistance, were valid for the entire lifetime of the reigning monarch. For the entire lifetime of the reigning monarch. Fishing expeditions, okay? Because there is no specific target. Officials can use them to search broadly in hopes of finding evidence of a crime, all right? That is very, very much like 702, all right? And we're going to get into that a little bit more. And why is general warrants illegal today, even though it's being used through the Patriot Act? The Fourth Amendment specifically mandates that warrants must be based on probable cause. What is probable cause? By definition, for an arrest, the facts and circumstances within an officer's knowledge would lead a reasonable person. Our entire system is based on reasonableness. Remember, we talked about reason? A lot of people don't realize this. The entire court system is built on what a reasonable person would consider for an officer, for a suspect, for a judge, for a witness. Everything is built about what a reasonable person would basically investigate and justify those outcomes. The entire court system. Okay? To believe that a crime has been committed and that a specific person being arrested committed it. Okay, that's for an arrest. For a search, there has to be a fairly probable that evidence of a crime or contraband will be found in the specific location to be searched. Now, this is important, Joel. Okay. If I'm writing out a warrant and I'm looking for a 308 Browning lever action hunting rifle, 308 Browning lever action hunting rifle, that's in my warrant. That's what I'm looking for. Can you find a .308 Browning lever action hunting rifle inside the console of a car?
Not any console that I know.
What about a glove box?
Nope.
What about under the driver's seat?
Nope.
What about inside a house, inside a drawer in the kitchen that is a utensil drawer? Could you find a .308 hunting rifle lever action in that motherfucker? Is it reasonable to believe it?
No.
Okay. So this is why warrants are important. And warrants specify those things. So if I'm looking for a .308 lever action Browning hunting rifle, when I'm writing out my warrant as a federal agent, then I'm going to have a judge sign. Okay. I'm going to be granted access specifically to places that can hide a Browning .308 lever action hunting rifle. It doesn't even give you the idea. So if you're going into a house and you're looking for that specific weapon, because that is what the warrant is telling you to look for, it also excludes places that weapon cannot be found. Does that make sense? And it's the same thing for a vehicle, for a warrant. That's why these warrants are important. It does not give you, as a cop, it does not grant you the ability to go on fishing expeditions, which is what the founders called it, for general warrants. So if you're a cop and you have a general warrant and you go into a house, maybe you just want to find a crime where you can get a conviction. So you're looking through everything, right? What you're really looking for is a Browning .308 lever action hunting rifle. Okay. But maybe if I look in these drawers, I can find some weed, or maybe I can find some crack, or maybe I can find something else, right, that I can put on these people. That is the reason why those warrants are so specific. So you can't go on fishing expeditions to try to intentionally hem somebody up. Okay. These general warrants are wildly, wildly important to have gotten away from. And we're going right back into that shit. Would the founders literally spill blood and stack bodies to ensure that the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th Amendments, which have to do with illegal incarceration by the state, is fucking upheld. All right. And we're destroying it with intention. All right. Do you want to say anything before I keep going? Yeah, go ahead, man.
I mean, we're destroying that. And also with how ICE was handling, it was kind of the same thing, giving the leading officer to sign off on the warrant. And I think they might be backing off that, but I'm still not sure yet. There's been some hearings and stuff like that with the new DOJ, or not the new DOJ, the new Defense of Homeland Security. But yeah, still the same. And that's the biggest thing with me is, like, if you enjoy the Constitution, and this isn't just a Trump thing, you know, Bush did the Patriot Act, Obama extended the Patriot Act. In 2016,
he also extended, really quick, he also extended the idea that you could kill American citizens without due process, which he did.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it's just the Constitution was written for a reason, you know, and if the party held the people they put in place to run the country, we wouldn't be dealing with this, or held the person we put in place to run the country accountable, we wouldn't be dealing with this. But too often we just turn our head to the party we like and just let them do what they want to do, you know, and then all of a sudden we're fucking $43 trillion in debt, and it's 25 years later, and we're all wondering, like, how the fuck did this happen? Because we let it happen.
Yeah, the thing about it is it's like you get a lot of, especially on the conservative side, right? I'm a constitutionalist. I believe in the Bill of Rights. I believe in the U.S. Constitution, blah, 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 blah. It's like, do you? Do you, though?
All right.
Doesn't seem like it, really, if you're going to support this stuff. And here's the thing. If we're going to scrap it, then fucking scrap it. Just fucking scrap it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're being lied to. You get all these fucking people. You get the people that are the voters that say that this is who they are when that's not who the fuck they are. You get these people who get put in office who say this is who they are. This is not who the fuck they are. It's like, if you're not going to adhere to the Bill of Rights or the Constitution, then just fucking scrap it and start over. Quit fucking lying to us and saying that that's what you fucking believe in, because you don't. You don't believe in it. And if you're out there and you're a voter and you say that you believe in it and you're defending this shit, then you don't fucking believe in it either. So just scrap it. Like, quit lying about it and just be like, you know what? We need something else. We need something different. We need to burn that shit the fuck down, and we need to fucking come up with a different form of government. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what we should be doing. But since that's not what we're doing, and since we have all of these senators and people in the House representing and everything else, and all these voters that say they're constitutionalists and they believe in the Bill of Rights, until you're saying you're willing, until you fucking admit that you're willing to scrap it because you actually don't fucking believe in that shit, then we're going to continue to talk about why the fuck this is relevant and how you're fucking up. Okay? We're going to continue to do that until you just admit that you're not willing to adhere to these principles anymore. All right? So Trump, his current position is a significant shift from his 2004 campaign stance. Again, for like war, spending, public lands, big pharma. Shit, man, I like there's 8 or 9 bullet points at least where Trump is just completely shit on whatever his campaign promises were. So he posted kill FISA in all caps, kill the Patriot Act in all caps numerous times between 2016 and 2024 when he was running for campaigns on social media. All right. Now he describes FISA now as an effective tool to keep Americans safe, quote, and extremely important to our military, particularly given our ongoing conflict with Iran. So now it's really important that we keep this shit and we expand upon it. All right.
And let's also let's remember that he expanded on what a terrorist is. You know, and that's anybody who is talking shit about Christianity. That's anybody who's talking, I mean, technically mean right now, because we're going against what this, you know, what's happening
Israel.
right now. Like yep, you would be considered a, you know, and that's like a whole, and then like with the birthright, the thing that Udaily was talking about birthright citizenship, like, that's like the first thing to fall to say, like, oh, we could deport an American. And everyone says, oh, they're not, they're just talking about, you know, the ones who came here and tried to have a kid to become an American. I was like, no, I think that's what you think they're talking about. But like, if this transgresses, this could become Americans getting deported. That's the first like step to do that, you know? And that's where we had this constitution written for a reason. And if you're a terrorist and you plan on going and shooting up a fucking school or strapping bombs around your fucking waist, let's fucking put all those people away. Let's hang them, you know? But like, if you're talking shit about fucking the Republicans all day or the Democrats all day, you're entitled to your opinion. You could say some gross shit, you know, that's the freedom of speech, you know, that's what this country's about.
It's like we said,
you know, like it does.
The reason that free speech is so important is to protect the speech of the people you disagree with. That's why it's important. It's important because eventually it's just inevitable through time, your speech is going to be disagreed with. And so you're going to need those people to protect your speech as much as you are needed to protect their speech at some point in time. You know what I'm saying? That's why this shit matters so fucking much. It actually is more important to make sure the people you disagree with are allowed to talk. It's wildly important that they're allowed to speak.
The tough thing with the First Amendment is like, it enables, and this is why I like some of the social issue stuff or like COVID stuff or any of that stuff, like, once there's a cause, especially with the internet, it's never going to die. So people could hate transgender people. People could think that all white people are racist. Like, but once there's that cause and with freedom of speech, like, it's really hard to cartel any of that, you know, and especially in a country that's so lonely and looking to identify with something, you know. And I think like that's the hardest thing is like, once there's a cause, like, you're never going to kill it. You need to find a way to live with it and like move forward. And I don't know how you do this. This is some utopia that I dream up in my head that could exist, but
we need the Joel Manifesto.
A real hard thing.
We need the Joel Manifesto
it's tough.
Written out for publication.
Right? It's like I knew a bunch of people
in my inbox, Joel, shortly.
Dude,
I'll give you a couple months.
I'm running 2028.
Oh man, So what about
Ricker Manzanares.
what about administrative support for this bad boy? So his director of national intelligence, Joe Kent, was the assistant director of national intelligence, who has since resigned his position, specifically for disagreements. Tulsi Gabbard apparently doesn't have the bottom to do that. So Tulsi Gabbard, who once supported legislation to repeal Section 702 as a congresswoman, now supports the extension. She now supports the extension. Okay. So, what were some of the things Tulsi Gabbard, and listen, Trump's a flip-flopper, what the fuck ever. I really like Tulsi. I did. I listened to her on Rogan. I listened to her on a lot of podcasts. I listened to her and I believed her bullshit. You know what I mean? And again, that's on me for being retarded. But so in 2018, she stated Section 702 allowed the government to, quote, collect, retain, and search communications of everyday Americans without a warrant. She's right, end quote. Civil liberties. She argued in 2020 that FISA and the Patriot Act enabled, quote, abuses of our civil liberties through sweeping collection of our data. Once again, correct. Privacy concerns. In 2017, she characterized the program as, quote, a massive government-led exploitation of personal privacy, end quote. Once again, she was right. Constitutional concerns. She previously argued the intelligence community acted above the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And, I mean, dude, once again, this is one of the reasons why we can't trust any of these people anymore. We can't trust any of these fucking people anymore. Like when JD Vance runs for president in a couple of years, I'm not fucking voting for his ass. I'm not going to tell anybody out there to fucking vote for him because I'm not going to believe a single goddamn word that comes out of his fucking mouth. Not one. Did you see the TPUSA event that he was just at? Did you see that?
Yeah.
So there's that auditorium looked like it could have fit it was like an NBA, like a professional NBA sized auditorium, about 40,000 people probably. There was like 100 motherfuckers there. Literally, like 100 people total at this thing. And there was some gal, there was a whole, he got the business a few times from a few of these college kids, and good on them. Primarily for Israel. But there was one gal, she comes up, she's probably like 22. And she starts talking about how she's basically living in her car, right? Can't afford gas, can't afford an apartment. Has a really hard time finding groceries, has no idea how she would ever start a family. She's got a tremendous amount of student debt that she's paying for with a high interest rate that's costing her like $1,500 a month on top of everything else. And JD Vance was just basically like, he did the old boomer trick, dude. Like after she got done saying everything, he was just basically like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, bitch. Fuck are you complaining about? Get out there and work. I mean, literally, that's pretty much, you can go out there and like look at this shit yourself. That's pretty much what he said.
I think on saying that, I want to talk about the jobs report in our Fed saying like going and getting work. Like the work's not there. And this is coming from the last, the Fed chair. And also know when he's talking, he's being very like trying to say the truth without pissing Trump off, because Trump's already threatened to fire him because he's not saying the economy's doing good. So he's being like really careful to like spit on it before he puts it in, you know? Let me find it.
That's an excellent analogy, Joel. I like that.
All right.
Good number of people on the committee are concerned about is just the very, very low level of job creation. If you adjust what has been the trend job creation over the past, let's say 6 months, if you adjust that for what we think, our staff thinks is the overstatement due to overcounting, effectively there's zero net job creation in the private sector. But actually that looks like that's about what the economy needs in terms of dealing with very, very low, non-existent really, growth in the labor force, which of course we've never had in our history. So you've got a sort of a zero
employment growth equilibrium. Now that's balance, okay, but I would say it does have a feel of downside risk, and it's not kind of a really comfortable balance. So, but
I mean, and that's the whole, just like at this point, just based on campaign promises, like this was about the economy. We're supposed to be bringing jobs back, like none of it's happened. None of it's happened. He not only, there's looking like, I read a report that even though it was a small percentage, anyone making under $300,000, their taxes went up by 0.3% or 3%, while the bottom 1% saved up to 5% and more. And this is just on individual levels, not including that 88 of the largest corporations and almost there was more than half of them reported a profit, didn't have to pay any federal income tax. So this is on top of huge spending bills. We're not getting this money that we normally getting taxed from corporations. Like this is all the tariffs, which is a tax that a consumer is paying. There's only a few sectors where the tariffs actually have benefited, and most of that was in energy. And right now with the war, any of the small things we picked up in that energy sector with those tariffs are going down. So like the one thing that could have been theoretically good for us is now not. So just the draining the swamp. Everybody who works with him is from a central bank or a fucking former like Fox News host. Like all his ties to the big money. Like,
Yeah, real
look
estate
at the
moguls.
people in his cabinet. Yeah, real. Like it's not. And I fucking hate politicians. I'm not saying having somebody maybe who has a different way of thinking things, but like we're seeing what happens. This is the wealth is going to the top, and we're getting fucked again.
Yep. Go figure, bro. Hey, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, Joel. God damn it. Fucking live in your car for a little while. Throw some fucking dirt on it. Get back in the fight. Fuck.
And the conservatives constantly talk about like how we need to start having kids and families and shit again because our population's going down. You think anyone wants to have kids right now? There's so many people between the ages of fucking 25 and 35 who like they can't fathom having a kid. They can't buy a house, and it's give us a country where you could afford to have a fucking kid.
Yeah, how about we don't counsel student like lunch vouchers for a bullshit war that doesn't fucking have any meaning to us at all? How about that? It's a good start, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Let's talk
man.
Let's talk really quick about how this violates the Constitution. This Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act and FISA from the Patriot Act. So, Section 702 violates the Fourth Amendment directly, primarily because it allows the government to search the private communications of Americans without a warrant, right? While Section 702 is intended to target foreigners, that's what the stated intent is abroad. The communications of millions, literally tens of millions of Americans are incidentally, this is how they put it, quoted, incidentally collected if they talk to somebody overseas or email somebody overseas or do a website connection with somebody overseas, which like in our society, I don't know how that doesn't even happen because pretty much you can click on something on TikTok, right, bro? And if it's like a TikTok from India, guess what? They have access to all your shit now. Your phone records, your fucking emails, your fucking social media, your contacts, your fucking messages, text messages, you name it. Okay.
And now they have all these companies like Palantir who are behind it. So now they're collecting that data at an astonishing rate. Like there's AIs that now, so it's when they have access to it, they're getting everything, and it's instant,
Yeah. I mean, normally the Fourth Amendment requires the government to show probable cause, like we said. Okay. You have to have probable cause, which I talked about what probable cause is for an arrest and for a search and how that looks. It has to be supported by an oath or an affirmation. An oath is like kind of like a biblical thing. Like The reason they put affirmation in there is because if you don't believe in God, right? So you would be able, you would swear on whatever is important to you, like through affirmation. And then you have to particularly describe the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized, like what I talked about, the Browning lever action 308 hunting rifle. Okay. Things like that are really, really important. I mean, the Fourth Amendment requires the government to show probable cause to get a warrant to search an American's private data. Under 702, they can bypass this. They call it a front door access and go right to the back door, which is like if you have a TikTok from India. And now they have everything on you. You know what I'm saying? And so, I mean, that pretty much closes that out. But that's directly goes against everything they fucking, and Tulsi Gabbard, who I was a big fan of for a number of years. And so, how's the international community? So we're going to go back to the arms cells. So we kind of skipped a step. You know what I'm saying? We did the thing with where the Democrats, there was a record number of Democrats like that kind of came out and said that they weren't going to support. And it was just the bulldozer, bro. It was really just the bulldozer. It wasn't the weapons. You know what I'm saying? Like there were half as many Democrats that came out to support Israel not getting weapons from us. Like it's kind of easy. It's kind of like that chicken shit thing. If you're a Republican, you're just going to do a no vote. You know what I mean? Like I want to say no, but I'm too chicken shit to say no. So I'm just going to put in like a not here vote. It's like a lot of these Democrats, like half of them that voted for Israel not to get those armored bulldozers, that half voted for Israel to get 12,000 more missiles. You know what I'm saying? So it really wasn't that like fucking.
Well,
it's like you can't have bulldozers, but we're going to give you a bunch of missiles. Like, what the fuck do you think they're using the fucking missiles for? Like, it's such an easy thing to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so easy for them to be like, I'm going to vote that you can't have bulldozers. That seems really easy to me. Like, I can put my name on that. I'm probably not going to get criticized as much for that, right? But I'm not going to put my name on Israel not getting 12,000 fucking missiles. Like, I'm not going to put my name on that one.
And is this part of the $1.5 trillion bill?
No.
Or is this specific
totally
things that
secondary.
he's trying to... Gotcha.
Totally secondary. Yeah. This is a $500 million additional spending spree for Israel. $500 million.
So not only is he trying to fucking pass a $1.5 trillion bill for the Pentagon, but he's also...
Oh, this shit passed. It already passed.
So it is passed, yes.
Yeah, it's fucking passed, bro. Like that, like the Democrat. There was a few Democrats, like we said, that voted against it, but this shit is already passed, homie.
On top of $1 billion a day to be doing.
On top of $1 billion a day, and 40 plus days now. So Israel's going to get their $500 million of armored bulldozers and 12,000 more missiles. Okay. The international community is increasingly divided about arms sales to Israel. As we all know, our allies really aren't our allies anymore. Just like Shawnee Daly talked about on her podcast, like really our only ally at this point is Israel. That's it. That's all. Because none of our other allies are fucking coming to support us in any way, shape, or form with this shit. Whether it's the Strait of Hormuz, whether it's stacking Iranian bodies, whether it's doing sorties over Iran, whether it's fucking providing intelligence, just giving us a goddamn air base that we can launch out of, like, and even giving us airspace to fly through. They're not even doing that. Our allies aren't even giving us airspace to fly our birds through because of how much they disagree with this shit. With the growing number of nations and international bodies calling for an immediate halt to arms transfers to Israel, this shift is largely driven by a recent surge in military operations in Lebanon. This whole thing with Lebanon is pissing a lot of people off. You know what I mean? Lebanon's, and it's like Gaza, what like started it. You know what I mean? It kind of broke the seal. It like ripped the Band-Aid off. It cut the fucking scab off. You know what I mean? And now it's bleeding. And people are like, and they're doing Lebanon. You know what I mean? And so like Gaza was kind of the initial Band-Aid removal, you know? So a group of 19 UN human rights experts issued a statement on April 15th, which is yesterday, on Wednesday, 2026, urging all member states to suspend arms transfers immediately to Israel. All right. Complicity warnings. Experts argued that continued supply makes countries complicit in what they describe as indiscriminate attacks on civilian targets. Okay. This is what most of the international community sees Israel doing, is indiscriminate acts on civilian targets. All right. Violation of the UN Charter. The group labeled Israel's recent bombing of over 150 locations in Lebanon as a blatant violation of the UN Charter. In Italy, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni suspended a long-standing defense agreement with Israel. So they've been supplying Israel with arms for a really, really, really long time. Not doing that shit anymore. They're done. Spain and Slovenia, both of them as well. And they're also advocating for full European Union-wide arms embargo against Israel. Public pressure, a European citizens initiative calling for the suspension of EU-Israel Association Agreement has surpassed 1 million signatures by citizens that are living in Europe. Amnesty International continues to call for a total ban on all military and security equipment, including surveillance and AI infrastructure for Israel. They don't even want Israel to have AI infrastructure for any of the stuff they're doing. Legal challenges in Australia. Australia is another country that's coming out against Israel pretty hard. Human rights groups filed a federal court application on April 8th, 2026 to force the government to disclose arms export documents and ensure international law was not being violated. All right. And one more, national coalitions. Over 100 organizations, over 100 international organizations have lobbied the United States Senate, framing arms sales as a violation of both U.S. law and international humanitarian standards. And so that is what how the international community feels about the fact that we just passed all of this shit that we're going to keep giving Israel. And that's why they don't let us use their fucking airspace. We can't even fly Joel, we can't even fly a goddamn C-130 or a C-17 or an F-18 30,000 feet over Spain or Italy or Slovenia or a lot of these places right now at 30,000 feet. That's how against this shit that they fucking are. All these countries that stack bodies with us in Iraq and Afghanistan are so much smarter than we are. My fucking God, bro. What do you think?
Because they did it, and it was under the cause of weapons of mass destruction, and they were just going to help out Big Brother because Big Brother's always been there to help them out. And as much as we hate those relationships with the UN and NATO, like that's what we pay for those relationships for a reason. We have bases in 220 countries for a reason, and they went to war and then they come back, and not only did they lose money, they lost soldiers, and it was on something that was bullshit. There was never weapons of mass destruction there, and this is the exact same fucking card they did with Iran, and Iran is a much bigger problem than Iraq, and they know that, and they don't want to have their fucking hands in it, as far as like the global impact of messing with Iran compared to Iraq. What's happened with oil is the biggest shift in our history, from one event, and because we have a much bigger economy, I don't think people realize that, and it hasn't hit America that hard yet, but it's globally, it's been the biggest impact. And that's why, like, why would any of our allies be like, oh, sweet, you started a war you didn't need to start, and now you're fucking with my country and my economy? Why would they want to help us? They want to watch us spend our money, spend our war power, and then China's going to come in when we have no money, and that's crazy, man.
Yeah, China and Russia are balls deep in goodness for this shit. I mean, we're really doing them a solid, dude, especially Russia. Holy Christ. All the oil sales they're doing now. We've had sanctions on Russia since they invaded Ukraine, and they're selling so much fucking oil to the international community now, making so much goddamn money. Iran's making a killing. Iran's making a killing in the Strait of Hormuz at $2 million a pop. They're gonna fuck around and find out and end up getting a superpower status through this shit. Okay.
And there's another thing that China just did, and they went and took over an island that is one of their trade route, or like a big trade route, and now like they're policing that island because they know we can't do anything, we can't hold this at two fronts, so now China is taking over. I forget the name of the island, but yeah, there's things going on behind the scenes where China is strengthening a lot of stuff, So, and they haven't been spending the amount of money we have on war and shit. Like they have the money and infrastructure to do it that somehow we have lost in the last fucking 30 years.
Hey man, you know what's funny is Iran is going to be a Chinese and Russian proxy, just like how Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Hamas is a proxy of Iran. Like Iran is going to test Chinese and Russian weapon systems against American forces as a proxy. That's what's going to happen through this deal. All right, so Professor Mohamed Morandi, I think it's Morandi, University of Toronto. He was a part of the negotiation party in Pakistan on behalf of Iran. He's not an employee of the government. He did it as a volunteer. He did not get paid. He's a PhD. Wildly intelligent. He was on Breaking Points with Crystal and Sagar today. Highly recommend you check it out. Basically, this is kind of like, in a way, a summary of kind of what he said from the negotiations and his perception on Iran and the United States. He doesn't even have like an accent. He sounds almost American, this guy. I mean, I listened to the whole thing today. He is wildly, wildly educated. This guy is real fucking smart. So these are kind of the bullet points from this. Iran understood that the 12-day war wasn't the end. Okay, they saw it kind of as the beginning, almost. They learned from Israeli and American capabilities in the 12-day war to prepare for the current war. They said that's one of the reasons why they felt pretty prepared for what American and Israeli air power was going to be. Their plan is to basically generate a global economic catastrophe. That's literally what he said, to generate a global economic catastrophe. That's how they're going to fight the war. They're going to make the entire world feel it, like economically, which makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. You know what I mean? After 40 days of fighting. Oh, I know, right? Dude, diesel prices, we might as well say this. Diesel prices are the highest ever recorded in American history right now. You know that?
Yeah, pretty sure that affects a lot more conservatives than it does liberals.
Dude, diesel prices are the highest in recorded American history. What in the fuck? Gas is 85 octane in Steamboat Springs, $4.20 a gallon right now. I don't know where it's at in Denver. It's probably like $4.
At Aspen,
we're saving a quarter.
About $5
for unleaded 85.
I don't know. I just saw the sign and it was like in town. They have a gas station, and it was cheaper outside of town, but it was like right at $5.
Yeah, diesel's like $5.30. I know. Like 90 octane is probably around $5. It's Jesus Christ, man.
We're fucking breaking the wrong record. The first time in our country's history we haven't had any unemployment or labor force growth.
You know what I used to say
when gone.
Yeah, you know what I used to say when Trump was running. It was the end of the Biden administration. I was like, it's the economy, stupid. That's what people are voting on, is the economy. It's real fucking simple. It's not hard. It's really goddamn simple to understand what families in the United States are voting on, and it's the economy. It's not to fucking stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon for the 35th time in the last 10 years. Like, okay. After 40 days of fighting, the U.S. changed their demands from unconditional surrender, which was their initial demand, to being willing to investigate Iran's 10-point demands. That's true. because the initial demand from the Trump administration was unconditional surrender. They're no longer holding that condition. Iran says that they will never not control the Strait of Hormuz now, regardless of negotiations. They also said that they will never not enrich uranium, regardless of negotiations. Pretty interesting. Those are two big no-goes for the United States, that's for sure. Iran is preparing itself for the next stage of the war currently, as they do not view the Trump administration as being a serious administration to hold negotiations with. That's what he said. Yep.
Wonder why.
They decided to engage in negotiations to show the world that they're willing to talk, just as they were willing to talk before when all of their negotiators were killed by the United States and Israel. He said that the only reason they were doing these negotiations is to show the world that not only were they willing to negotiate before, but even after all their negotiators were killed, they're still willing to talk. Okay, and why is Lebanon critical to the Iranian negotiators? Remember, because they talked about Lebanon had to be included, right, in the ceasefire. And so it was like, they were asking, why is that important to you? Why is it important to you that Lebanon's included in the ceasefire for you to end this war in Iran? It's a completely different state. Okay. This is what he said. Iran supports the Palestinian and Lebanese people against the genocidal regime of Israel. Period. It doesn't matter if you're Christian, Muslim, or even Jewish. Nor does it matter if you're black, white, or brown. Israel is a master race force, quote, master race force, determined to generate another outcome like Gaza for Lebanon and Iran as well. That's what he said. I kind of feel like I want to say that again.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good response to why is Lebanon critical to the Iranian negotiators? Because they're killing thousands and thousands of people in Lebanon, a lot of Christians. And I'll say this again. Iran supports the Palestinian and Lebanese people against the genocidal regime of Israel. Period. It doesn't matter if you're Christian, Muslim, or even Jewish, nor does it matter if you're black, white, or brown. Israel is a master race force determined to generate another outcome like Gaza for Lebanon and Iran. And one more thing, the U.S. has added another 10,000 troops to the area. Another 10,000 troops have showed up on the scene, on top of the Marine Expeditionary Unit, on top of the Special Operations Tier 1 and Tier 2 units that tried to pull the uranium and ended up on the CSAR when they were trying to get uranium, because that's really what they were there to fucking do. And yeah, brother, what do you think? We're an hour and a half into this bitch. We got anything else?
No, man. I'm good. It's it's disappointing that I'm waiting for, I don't know what the good news would be, is Trump changed his mind and decides Israel's a bad guy. I don't know what the fucking I think
we're slowly but surely moving that way, dude.
War.
We're slowly but surely moving that way. And it is happening within the Republican movement, within the younger generations. You know what I'm saying? I was talking to my buddy Zach Laporte. Shout out to Zach today. He sent me some pretty good stuff today, an article and some pretty good stuff about pretty much Israeli support within the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, and the younger generation and kind of the older boomer generation that's been running this country for the last 40 fucking years ish. That's pretty much run us into the ground. And it's good to see the changes happening. Now, the Republicans, I feel like they're hamstrung with Trump. They're really, really scared of him kind of personally and individually, I feel like. You know what I mean? I get that feeling. Yeah. And it's maddening to me, because if I was in those halls, you know what I mean? And I just wish that I wish we had people there that had some goddamn bottom a little bit. You know what I mean? That didn't give a shit about how anybody felt about anything and just said what was fucking right, regardless of who's in charge of you, who your boss is, who's onto your left or onto your right, or who's going to write about you as a reporter. We're getting that a lot with the younger generation, but we're definitely especially in the hallowed halls of the Senate, the House of Representatives, Congress. It's really still really few and far between. Because if you look at the Democrats, they were able to put pen to paper with their name for the bulldozers.
Right.
But they really were not able to do it for the fucking bombs. They weren't. They just couldn't quite, you know what I mean? Like they were like, I'm gonna drop off. I'm all cowered up. You know what I mean? Like they just couldn't fucking bring themselves to it for the bombs. They could do it for a bulldozer because it's a bulldozer. Seems easier. But the bombs, nope.
Right.
I don't know, brother.
It's crazy.
It's going to take another generation or two. It's going to take a few more elections if we still have a fucking society to defend by then.
Well, I think the scary thing what Trump did is he made people really loyal to him no matter what. Like what he says is like the gospel to a group of people. And I think the Republicans are also really worried about losing their base because they turned a lot of states that were blue, you know, like there was a big swing with a lot of stuff. And I think Trump has such a hold on some of that
It's over
base
now.
that they're not only worried about that, but there's still a lot of people out there who support him, unfortunately.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know?
there is. I think it's over, though, man. We're going to see a bloodbath in the midterms. When I was talking to Zach about this, we went back and forth because I was like, hey, man, like, what do you think? He's been a lifetime, kind of like a lifelong liberal, progressive. And a lot like you, though. You know what I mean? Like, he's checked out from a lot of the local shit. But he grew up like you. You know, I guess maybe that's the best way to put it. And, you know, because I was like, how do you feel? Like, because none of this makes sense between the midterms and the election, right? For the Republicans, they're cutting their own throats. It's like, is there something else in the works, you know? And we were spitballing that a little bit, whether it's an attack, whether it's something to do with like not allowing the elections to happen correctly, you know, or like letting the elections happen and then saying there's something else happened. Like you get the leader from Venezuela, right? Maduro.
Right.
Who's going to come out. I kind of like kind of a weird prediction here. One of the reasons why I think they kidnapped him, one of the reasons they said they kidnapped him was because they said that Venezuela had a lot to do with rigging our elections, right? So what happens if the Republicans get annihilated in the midterms and Maduro comes out and testifies like to reporters and people and says that the only reason this happened was because of manipulation at the ballot box between countries like Venezuela because we've been doing it for a long time. And that's the reason why this happened. And then they do some kind of martial law thing or some kind of weird thing, right? Where they don't let the elections take place or the outcomes happen the way that they were kind of like voted on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something in the work. I think that could go there. Bannon also talked about putting ICE at TSA was just like a test run for having them at like election booths and stuff, you know. So it definitely seems like they're leaning towards something, you know, and Biden's still speaking at CPAC and all the Republican, not Biden, Bannon, and Steve Bannon who said this, not if I said Biden, my bad.
Oh, you
But,
did. It's okay.
Yeah, it seems like there's something in the works. And like I said, I've been saying it for a while. Like I don't, whether it's something to do with the war, like I think they're gonna find whatever way, whether it's the SAVE Act and they can't pass the SAVE Act, so then he's gonna say, well, elections aren't safe. So it's like there's something weird is gonna fucking happen. So
we live in a weird time frame,
we'll
homie.
see, though.
We're gonna
We'll
between
see,
the
man.
World War and the elections and everything else, fuck. Who knows, bro? But you know what I do? You know, I do know. I love you, man. I love my family. I
Yeah,
love this life.
and
It's all worth fighting for.
enjoy
bro.
the conversations. I love everybody. I just want fucking people to get along. That's
God damn
my
it,
fucking
Joel.
jam,
That's what I
man.
love about you, man.
I in my blessed life, I've met a lot of people who I would have never taken a chance or I had like a closed-minded view on who have changed my perspective. So when I'm talking about these things, it's just because like I gave somebody a chance to fucking tell me what they thought, you know, and not always. Sometimes I'm like, that fucking person's batshit crazy. But yeah, I just want people to get along. So
That's right,
challenge
brother.
yourself. Listen to the things you don't like all the time.
That's all right, man. All right, I love you, dude. We're out.
All right, love it, brother. Take it easy, man.